after tomorrow.
The movie begins at the annual United Nations Global Warming Conference in New Delhi, where paleoclimatologist Jack Hall delivers a speech. He warns the delegates that Earth is on the brink of a polar catastrophe that will turn everything into ice. When asked how much time is left, Jack explains that while it may take centuries, if fossil fuel consumption isn't reduced, their own grandchildren will suffer the consequences. After the conference, Jack meets Terry Rapson, a representative from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They discuss their research findings, and as they talk, heavy snowfall begins, suggesting that climate change may already be underway, or perhaps it's just winter. Over the next few weeks, strange weather patterns appear worldwide. In Japan, enormous hailstones begin falling from the sky, killing several people. These hailstones are the largest ever recorded. Meanwhile, at Terry Rapson's monitoring station in Scotland, computers detect a sudden and massive drop in ocean temperatures. The changes are so extreme that communication signals in the area freeze instantly. At the International Space Station, astronauts observe gigantic storms forming in Earth's troposphere. In Washington, D.C., Jack takes his son, Sam, to the airport. Sam, a brilliant student, is heading to New York to compete in a decathlon. Despite his father's respected status, Sam harbors resentment toward Jack for always being absent due to work. Jack reassures him that once he retires, he will finally have time for his family. Unless, of course, they don't survive. When Sam arrives in New York with his best friends, Laura and Brian, they notice a large flock of birds flying west, as if trying to escape something. Meanwhile, Terry calls Jack to share his alarming findings. He warns that the polar catastrophe is arriving much faster than expected, and that there's no time to escape. When Jack asks if it's serious, Terry replies that nothing like this has happened in the last 10,000 years. At a weather monitoring center in California, a man reports that hailstones are falling in Los Angeles. Turning on the TV, the technician is shocked to see golf ball-sized hail devastating parts of the city. He urgently calls his boss, urging him to issue a tornado warning for California, but it's too late. In a matter of moments, massive tornadoes tear through the city, destroying everything in their path. It looks like the aftermath of an extreme gender reveal party. Due to the escalating disaster, an emergency meeting is held at the Office of Global Change in Washington, D.C. One attendee points out various catastrophic weather events occurring worldwide, emphasizing that something has gone terribly wrong. Jack, who is present, explains that the disasters are caused by disruptions in the North Atlantic currents, triggered by the rapid melting of polar ice due to global warming. He warns that this is only the beginning. Within days, the weather will worsen. Jack later meets with the vice president to stress the urgency of the situation. He insists that mass evacuations in northern states are essential, as the polar blast could hit at any moment, dismisses Jack's concerns, and walks away. In the UK, snowfall intensifies at an alarming rate. 3 helicopters are dispatched to evacuate the Queen, but as they pass through the storm's eye, their instruments freeze instantly. Within moments, the helicopter blades stop functioning, causing all 3 aircraft to crash. One pilot manages to survive, but the moment he steps outside, he freezes to death instantly. Back in Manhattan, Sam and his friends attempt to return to DC, but transportation is shut down due to the heavy rainfall. Desperate, they head into the streets, only to find the city in complete chaos. Suddenly, a massive tsunami appears, engulfing everything in its path. Skyscrapers, and even the Statue of Liberty, are swallowed as if they were nothing. Realizing the imminent danger, Sam and his group take refuge inside the National Library. Meanwhile, Terry calls Jack with more alarming news. Europe's temperatures are dropping so fast that helicopters are freezing midair. Jack quickly analyzes the situation and realizes that the storm is approaching the US even faster than expected. In fact, they have only 48 hours before everything freezes over. Looking at the weather predictions, Jack sees that 3 colossal storm systems are forming across the globe, growing larger by the day. Inside the library, Sam desperately searches for a working telephone. He eventually finds one on a lower floor, but it's partially submerged in water. Determined to call his parents, he swims to it and finally gets through. Jack is overjoyed to hear his son's voice and quickly gives him instructions. Stay indoors, wait for the storm to pass, and above all, don't go outside, or he will freeze instantly. Sam is worried, but Jack reassures him that he will come to his rescue soon. The next day, as the library survivors gather supplies, they hear an unusual noise outside. Looking out the window, they are shocked to see a cargo ship floating through the streets. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., a crisis meeting is underway. Jack briefs officials on the worsening situation, warning that the worst is yet to come. He urges immediate evacuations in the southern states and recommends moving people to Mexico before it's too late. Once again, the vice president disapproves of the idea, claiming that an evacuation of such magnitude is not possible. At least he didn't build a stupid wall. He then asks what will happen to the residents of the North. Jack replies that it's too late for them. If they step outside, they will immediately freeze to death. The best they can do is stay inside. Surprisingly, the president takes Jack's advice and orders the National Guard to evacuate the remaining population to the south. In New York, the people inside the library see a group walking across the frozen land, heading to the warmer states. Seeing this, they decide to leave before the snow gets any deeper. Sam, aware of the impending danger, tries to warn them that it's a death mission, but he is completely ignored. Soon, everyone leaves the library except for Sam's group and a few others. Meanwhile, Jack begins his journey to New York with his colleagues and best friends, Frank and Jason. Since the three have visited the Arctic for research, back at the library, Sam and his group search the building for food and discover vending machines. They also gather books to burn for warmth. Elsewhere, Jack and his team travel through the thick snow but suddenly hit a roadblock, forcing them to continue on foot. They walk for hours with determination, but as they reach the top of a fragile building, Frank accidentally breaks the glass and falls in. He is caught by his lifeline while Jack and Jason hold him up. But then, the glass begins to crack. Left with no choice, Frank cuts his lifeline and sacrifices himself. At the library, Laura suddenly develops a fever and collapses. The group quickly searches for the cause and discovers a wound on her leg, likely causing blood poisoning. A woman in the group, who is a medic, explains that Laura needs an urgent injection of penicillin, or she may need an amputation. Desperate to save her, Sam decides to search a nearby cargo ship for medicine. Meanwhile, at a military base, the vice president learns that the president died while being evacuated. To make matters worse, researchers discover that the eye of the storm is shifting towards New York City. Elsewhere, Jack and Jason continue their journey, but Jason collapses from exhaustion. Jack is forced to carry him. At the library, the trio reaches the cargo ship, but their scent is picked up by a pack of starving wolves that have escaped from a nearby zoo. JD, being the newest character, is immediately doomed. Inside the ship's kitchen, they find penicillin and search for more supplies when the wolves suddenly attack. Sam and Brian escape into another room, but JD is badly bitten. Despite his injuries, they manage to save him. As they consider their next move, Sam looks outside and sees the sky clearing. He realizes that the eye of the storm is approaching and that they are running out of time. To distract the wolves, he runs through the ship, luring them away. After barely escaping, he reunites with Brian and JD, who is too weak to walk. They find a sledge and drag him back to the library. On the other hand, as Jack struggles through the snow with Jason, he also sees the eye of the storm approaching. Wasting no time, he searches desperately for shelter. Luckily, he finds an open vent and quickly throws Jason inside before following him. Just as they close the door, the frost sweeps through, freezing everything in its path. At the library, Sam and his friends return just in time and scramble to keep the fire burning, their only protection from the brutal cold. Jack, also struggling against the cold, desperately lights a fire with an open stove. After a while, Jason wakes up and sees that everything outside is frozen solid. With the storm's eye now gone, Jack plans to resume his journey. Jason warns that it's still dangerous outside, but Jack insists that he has no time left. That night, as they rest in a tent, Jack reflects on humanity's future. He notes that humans have survived many ice ages before, but if they aren't careful, they might not make it through this one. After weeks of disaster, the International Space Station spots signs of recovery. The storm begins dissipating over Europe, revealing land for the first time in weeks. Jack and Jason emerge from their tent to see clear skies and the sun shining. As they walk, they come across the frozen Statue of Liberty and several ships trapped in ice. Finally, they reach Manhattan after days of suffering. However, when they arrive at the library's location using GPS, they are devastated to see it completely buried in ice. All hope seems lost, but then they notice a small opening. Jack rushes inside, with Jason following closely. They search frantically and, after some time, find Sam and the survivors huddled around the fire. Against all odds, Sam and his group have survived. At last, father and son reunite after weeks of separation in the midst of terrifying weather conditions. Back in Mexico, the new president receives news that there are survivors in New York. Excited, he announces a massive rescue operation for those stranded in the northern states. In the final scene, helicopters reach Manhattan and find people alive, gathered on rooftops awaiting rescue. Jack and his group are among those airlifted to safety. An astronaut aboard the International Space Station, looking down at Earth. He notes that the sky has never been clearer. Then, as he stares into space, he remarks, "I can see Bezos's rocket from here." Thank you for watching. Make sure to hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an exciting story. More thrilling recaps are on the way, and you won't want to miss them. Drop a comment below and let me know your favorite moment from this story. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Stay tuned, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one. Movie Recap Time Team.